Hello and welcome to Beginner's Luck, a new series that I'm doing where basically I'm tackling the hobbies, mediums, techniques, stuff that I want to learn that I am interested in and kind of just sharing the process with you. So you're gonna see my trials and tribulations, you're gonna see my successes hopefully, you're gonna see what materials I get and what I am thinking, like I'm just kind of wanting to be a beginner again, and I want to do that with so many different mediums, and I thought we could just hang out, have a good time with this. So this one is one I'm very pleased to do because it is acrylic painting. And I have done acrylic painting before. I'm not a complete beginner, but I never really devoted a lot of time to it in the past, and it's been a really long time since I've done it. So I'm basically a beginner, I'm basically a novice, and I'm wanting to kind of like figure out this whole deal, acrylics as a medium. So why haven't I painted acrylics if I've got all the materials, If I've been wanting to, why not do it? Well, that's because I'm scared of it. Just like anyone else, I'm afraid of failure, and I kind of just have these things that get in my way and make it hard for me to approach the art. Even if I know everything's there, it's still just freaking me out. It's freaking me out right now, actually. I don't know why. Canvas stuff is just not really my thing, and even that's not entirely true because I did do a whole lot of oil painting way back in high school. So it's not that I'm unfamiliar with painting on a surface like this. I guess I've never done it in front of anybody before, so it's kind of nervous time for me. I've been wanting to get into it generally forever because I love the medium, and I've specifically been a lot more inspired lately because since we moved to Chicago, we've gone to plenty of art shows, and at these art shows we see lots of incredible paintings. So it's hard not to feel inspired by all the different varieties of art that are before you. Specifically, why I am approaching it today, why I'm finally biting the bullet and jumping in, is because I got some free brushes. Let me show you. These are a bunch of old, used, beat up paintbrushes from the business down the hall. That is the artist Emmy Star Brown. She is a muralist and fine artist here in Chicago, and like I said, right down the hall in the Kimball Art Center. So she was cleaning studio and seems like a really good opportunity to me. There are a ton of different brushes in here. Like some of them are, a lot of them are square, a lot of them are a bit bigger, and there's some small ones. We've got some rounds, we've got a fan brush that's in great shape, by the way. And just, there's just so many brushes, and I'm really curious because also look how well loved they are. They have clearly made a lot of incredible art, and these brushes are magical, they're fantastic, and they're so inspiring. It is like a sign. Honestly, how could you not take that as a sign? So I've got to paint, I've got to try. So today I'm gonna be trying some abstract acrylic painting, much in the style of, I'm gonna try putting up some of the artists that I follow, who I love their acrylic style, and I'm kind of wanting to emulate that. Can't think of their names off the top of my head, sorry, it's the fear. I'm gonna go get the supplies together, show you the supplies I'm using, and then jump into painting. So let's do it. I have gathered the supplies, at least I think what's going to be all the supplies that I use. I'm not sure. Honestly, I am jumping into this with little to no research because I, again, have done it before, so I'm curious to see kind of just how much I can pull forth from my subconscious somewhere. I did do a little tiny bit of research on just basic tips with acrylics, and one of the tips that I saw was, with abstract paintings at least, start dark and work to lighter. So that's the only thing that I've looked up recently that I'm gonna probably try. Let me talk to you about what I have, what I am working with. So we have here a canvas. This is I think a 16 by 20, I'm not really sure, but it's raw. I haven't done anything to it. I have an apron, which isn't strictly speaking necessary, but I like my clothes. Now that I am all protected, let me show you my paints. When it comes to acrylic paints, I have a handful of things here. So I have a set of really simple basic colors like this, which is frankly uninspired. It hasn't really done anything for me. I also very recently came into a set of nice, well, it's not a set, necessarily, but individual tubes of paint that I got secondhand basically from Golden. So there's literally a golden color I'm holding in my hand, but I also have more like colors like Payne's Gray, you know, a couple cool colors like that. I also have in here this weird abstract soft body paint. It's a Sennelier brand. We got it to try it and it was weird. Finally, I have a handful of these like cheap little craft paints. So we're gonna try to work with that and make something halfway decent or interesting. You know, we'll see. Then of course I have my brushes, which I'm super stoked to work with and really get nice and big. I'm gonna be using, I think I'm gonna limit myself to just these new to me brushes, and I'm not gonna use any of my own existing brushes. So we're gonna work with that. We also have several cups and jars of water here. I honestly don't remember how much you need with acrylic painting. So I just kind of went on the offensive here and got like just absolutely tons, heaps of water, and it's just all right here. I also have some painter's rags, these like sort of rough cottony paper towel-y things. I have a spray bottle. I have these 3 plastic takeout containers that I washed and saved just for this purpose. And finally, I have an easel, which I got off of Facebook Marketplace shortly after we moved to Chicago. So Ghost City thrift markets, it's fantastic. So this is about all I have, or all I'm planning on using, but I also reserve the right to, you know, if I think something in my existing supplies you know, if I need something, I can grab it, and I'll say something if I do. But I'm gonna just kind of try and begin with this, and we're gonna see how it goes. So let's do it. So I'm gonna try to do like an underpainting here where I'm going to thin out some colors and lay them on. Just trying to go big and bold and not super fussy with the details. Basically right now I'm trying to keep my movements really loose. Trying to keep, like, I'm holding on to like more of the tip of the brush rather than the base, and I'm trying to just kind of, you know, not worry about details at all, just go make some color. And I guess green is the name of the game. This particular one, don't know why. Well, I mean, I do, I pick the colors, but it is what it is. We'll figure it out. I'm surprising myself with the green is why I'm commenting on this. I have no idea if a heat tool is recommended for drying acrylic paintings. It's just what I know with watercolor, so I'm giving it a try. I'm just gonna listen to some music while I paint. Don't mind me. Oh! I dropped the paint palette. It's fine. Nothing spilled. Hi, I am here on the second day. I am looking at this painting and trying to decide what steps I need to take next. And one of the things that I realized is that I don't actually know how to dispose of acrylic paint water. I just looked it up, and you are not supposed to put it down the drain. It's an environmental hazard, so you can't do that. What you could need to do is have like a system of buckets, I guess. So I think there's another big bucket in the other room from like big murals and stuff. So I'm gonna go grab that and dump all of my old paint water into that bucket so I can put fresh water into these guys. So let me go do that. Something else that I tried is, if you're ever used to using acrylics, you know that they dry like on your palette and they get hard and unusable and you can't revive them like watercolors. So I read somewhere about putting them in the fridge. So these have been sitting in our little mini fridge all night, and I'm gonna see if they're still any good. So this appears to be wet still. And this one's the one I'm more concerned about. Okay, I think we can work with this. So as you can see, I went really, really dark on this one. Like I added a lot of color, but then I darkened it a lot. And I'm trying to kind of go with the general idea that watercolors are, which is layers, layers, layers. So I went ahead and just did a sort of complex, messy, dark layer. And now I'm gonna try adding some brighter colors on top of it. We're gonna see how it goes. Cool, wish me luck. Hey you, I made a painting. I'm really pleased with this. I am thrilled with this. I'm still really new to the world of abstracts, so this was kind of a fairly beginner's luck flavoring on both the acrylics front and the abstracts front, but I am thrilled with this painting. I'm thrilled with this piece. I did have some thoughts along the way on just the process that I'd like to share, so let me grab my notes. All in all, this painting took me about 2 days of dedicated painting, so I think the painting sessions were like 4 to 5 hours each. Now, I was afraid with my background in watercolor, going into acrylics would be very outside of my comfort zone, but really once you kind of just tweak a little bit in the beginning, it's not all that different. So actually there's several things that I have here that are remarkably similar to a lot of the advice that I give with watercolors, so that's really convenient. First of all, I have multiple water buckets, so we're going bigger than jars. Watercolor is much smaller. Acrylics, water gets so muddy so fast, so you need like multiple buckets. I was using a 3-bucket system where I had 3 different buckets of increasingly clean or increasingly dirty water, so I would use that to kind of make sure that my brushes were getting washed off, make sure that I had clean water for applying and thinning paint, and kind of had one in the middle so that way it wasn't a harsh transition. Because yeah, acrylics put off a lot of pigment in the water, like a lot. You'll be surprised if you're used to watercolors. Also, another thought is to have multiple palettes. Like I said in the beginning, I'm just using some old Chinese takeout containers, and they're perfect for this because they're super lightweight, super easy to carry, and I don't mind letting paint dry in them because, yeah, who cares? But I needed quite a lot of space. There's actually a third one running around here somewhere. I'm not feeling like getting up to go get it, but having multiple palettes is great because then you can just really spread out and make the colors that you want without worrying about ruining your existing colors. Like, it just makes everything a lot easier. And on that, plenty of brushes was really nice for me. I know that maybe not everyone would agree with that, but I liked having a selection, especially knowing not very much about what kind of style I liked with acrylics. Like with watercolor, I'm used to it, so I know what brushes I go to again and again and again. Like if I needed to just pick out 2 brushes and do a whole painting with just 2 brushes, I feel really confident in that decision. Acrylics is less so. It's a lot bigger than I'm used to, like working with much bigger brushes for the most part, and obviously, I have here a huge selection because I got these for free, so they're just kind of hodgepodge. I didn't choose them specifically. So it was really nice having options, is basically what I'm trying to say. I liked being able to kind of bounce around between a variety of different brush sizes, brush shapes, and just like the different springiness, different softness, all of that. It was really lovely for me. So if you are trying acrylic painting, I would suggest, you know, if you can get some free brushes, that's dope. You should totally do that. But if you're just buying brushes for yourself, that's totally fine. I would say just get a multi-pack of really cheap brushes, and that'll help you figure out what it is you like, so that way you can then buy like nicer versions of that if you so choose. Another similarity to watercolors that I thought was really interesting is you still have to wait for layers to dry. I don't know why I had it in my head that that was like a watercolor exclusive. Maybe it's because I used to do oils a bit, like way back in high school, I was kind of like in my little oils phase. And with that, nothing dries ever. So you just have it to be wet forever. And then watercolors as a contrast was extremely like layer dependent, and it was just a completely different playing field. I was expecting acrylics to just be more along the lines of oils, I guess, because that's what I associate with canvas painting. It's really a lot more like watercolors, in so much that you don't want to like just get everything on there and get it all muddy and have there be a bunch of stuff going on. You want to add layers of complexity as you go. And that right there has changed the game for me on acrylic painting. That realization that I learned in watercolor that I can apply here, because when I was younger and I did I dabbled in acrylic painting and I never really felt it. And one of the reasons why I'm thinking is that I was trying to do too much with too little. As in, I was trying to do a whole painting on essentially 2 layers of paint instead of like waiting for it to dry and giving it time to build up, because that's where the visual interest lies, that's where the beauty lies, is just that buildup of multiple layers. And I learned that with watercolors, and holy cow, it makes a huge difference with acrylics, what limits I have, but learning to go in layers makes a huge difference. And finally, last note, I guess, is that I followed contrast. That was my guiding light the entire time when I was stepping back and trying to like figure out what I wanted to do. That's more of an abstracts thing, I suppose, than a acrylics thing. But either way, I would step back and I would look and I would be like, where do I want there to be the highest amount of contrast? And I decided that, you know, these areas would be the highest contrast, and then the rest of it would be not quite as intense. That was my goal anyway. And yeah, that was basically it. I didn't think too hard about it. I didn't plan anything. I just kind of started slapping colors on and figuring it out as I went, which is why you'll notice that it started off with a ton of green, and there's almost no green to be seen in the final painting. I just kind of used it as a base color and kept going over it, and I really like this. I really like this painting. I think it's pretty neat. I'm proud of it. I'm going to hang it, and I'm definitely going to do another one. So, thoughts for the next painting. I do have some things that I would like to research or focus on the next time that I give this a go. So, I already know about underpainting. I'm familiar with the concept, but it's not something I'm like super aware of, I don't think. Like, underpainting is the sort of like the green was in this one. I need to look into it, is basically what I'm saying. I know generally what the concept of an underpainting is. I'm not gonna be able to explain it to you because I haven't like looked into it, but I need to. I think it's gonna make the painting experience a lot better. Also, I generally just kind of wanna research and look into some different brush techniques, some different like brush stroke techniques. I think that acrylics present a lot of opportunities that watercolors don't have, and I wanna see how I can play with that. I also want to focus on trying to paint gradients. I have done this before. It's not like a new thing, but it's something I haven't done in years and years with thicker paints like this, and I want to kind of get that, you know, brush the rust off and get back into it and bring myself back up to speed. And finally, I want to figure out the proper disposal of acrylic water because I never really looked into it before, but apparently you're not supposed to dump it straight down the drain because it's plastic and it's toxic, it's bad. It's just bad news. So now I have multiple buckets of dirty acrylic paint water kind of hanging around the studio over here, and I'm just kind of waiting for them to evaporate. I need to look into how to like properly do it because I don't know what I'm doing and I don't want to be an ecological disaster. So if you know how to properly dispose of acrylic paint water, please tell me what that is in the comments below because I don't got it. So that's it. That concludes my very first painting project with acrylics, and I'm really, really pleased with this. And it's worth saying that if you're thinking like, wow, you're a beginner and you're doing so well, I want to make sure that you remember skills are transferable. I'm not a beginner in art or color theory or paintbrush maneuvering, and like I've got experience in this in something that's similar but different, and that means that it's much easier for me to jump in as a pretty new beginner in this medium and be better than if you were just picking it up with zero artistic experience. So that's a really good incentive for you if you're feeling interested in some kind of artistic practice. Do that, and then even if later you try new things, you're gonna be better than if you didn't have that first experience, if you didn't have that first skill. All right, I am going to wrap this video up. Thank you so much for tagging along with me on this journey. I really appreciate it. And you know, if you have any suggestions for acrylic painting tips or anything like that down below, I would love to hear them. Or any acrylic painters that you follow that you think would be really cool to share. I would love that also. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.